Happy New Year. Today is January the 13th, and I just got back to the office after about 15 days of struggling through COVID. And so I had an idea that maybe what we could talk about with our first video session of the year is, are you prepared for sudden death? I remember back when COVID first started to become a thing, we saw a couple of news headlines go across that said people had got COVID, they developed a really high temperature, and they were dead within 24 hours. Some of these people were really quite young in age, and that was the first real scare that I had from COVID. Because in the back of your mind, you always think, well, even if I'm going to die, I'm sure I'm going to have time to call my lawyer, or I'm sure I have time to put some plans in place. But we don't always get that time. And as we continue to go through COVID, just having COVID for the last 2 weeks or so, it was a timely reminder for me that sometimes the only way to be ready for these things is to have planned in advance. So we're going to go through sudden death and are you prepared? And we're going to focus on do you have a will? And if you do have a will, what does that mean? First off, I'll tell you that more than 50% of attorneys don't have a will typically, and so if you don't have one, certainly don't feel bad. Nobody wants to, I guess, face their possibility of their own mortality. But one of the disadvantages of wills is that wills move your assets through probate. Probate is the process of the court administering your will. And there are 3 disadvantages to going through probate. The first disadvantage is that it's a slow process. The second disadvantage is that it's a public process. And the third disadvantage is it's potentially an expensive process. Now let me just pause and say right off the bat that I'm not an attorney and I'm not in the business of giving legal advice. But some of these facts are well known, and in order for your estate to go through probate, they have to list your death in the newspaper, and they have to give your creditors or your potential creditors a chance to make claims against your estate. And that's one of the reasons why it's public, and that's one of the reasons why it's a slow process, because they have to give those creditors a chance to step forward. If you're interested in seeing what this looks like, just turn to the section of your newspaper that has your classifieds in it, and you'll see the list of estates that are going through probate. It's also potentially an expensive process. If you have a large amount of assets and it gets tied up in courts for a while, there can be quite a bit of legal fees associated with going through probate. But the alternative to a will is not to have a will. And what that basically means is I'm going to let the state decide what to do with my assets. And so you have a choice. You can decide through the use of a will, or you can decide through other planning tools that we'll discuss in other video sessions, or you can let the state decide and have all your beneficiaries fight it out between lawyers in the court. So you tell me which is better. One of the main reasons why a lot of people don't have wills is I'm told by my clients, they don't really know any lawyers. They don't really know how to get one. And I've always said there's 3 ways to get a will. If you, depending on your preference, I'm just going to list these. And again, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. It really depends on your circumstances. But the first way to get a will is to go down to your local library and go to the research section. And in the research section, they have a book of forms. And these will be forms that are approved for your state. You can simply put a dime in the copy machine. You can copy one of those template wills. You can sign it in front of a witness, put it on file with the courts if you need to, and you have a will in place for less than potentially $1. Now, is that the most creative will ever written? Is it the most powerful planning tool ever developed? No. But for some of you, if you're 20 years old and you want to state your wishes, so that your state that you live in doesn't arbitrarily decide, maybe that is a tool you can use. Another tool is the software packages that are out there. There are software packages like Quick and Will Maker. I'm sure there's other competing products. Nolo is a big legal software company that's out there online, and you can pay 50 or 100 bucks to buy that software, and you go through and they'll interview you, ask you questions, and they'll fill out a will that is supposed to be tested for your local state. So that's option number 2. So you have almost free to 100 bucks, under 100 bucks. And then your third choice is to actually hire a lawyer. And you can hire a lawyer either individually, or you can have Prepaid Legal. And I'm going to briefly cover both of those. If you have any type of complexity at all, by far, in my opinion, the best thing to do is to pay a little bit of money to an attorney who's a specialist and have these concerns addressed, because these are permanent concerns. These will, once you've put them down in writing and you die, they are stuck in stone. But certainly paying for an attorney who's a specialist is definitely always going to end up with the best will. You can also do Prepaid Legal. Now, I personally don't have any experience with Prepaid Legal. I do have probably 10 or 20 clients who've tried using it through the years, and what I've been told is that a lot of the lawyers that they have been referred to are very, very young in the business. So again, it comes down to how much complexity is involved. It comes down to how much money you want to invest in getting this prepared. But those are your 3 choices for getting a will. And really no one has an excuse not to have a will, because everybody can go down to their local library and Xerox one. But again, a will is not the ideal way to move assets, because those assets do go through probate. And frequently our clients will utilize trust in order to move assets outside of probate, and we'll be talking about that in a future video series. So if you're interested in this kind of content and you want to get financial information from somebody who's licensed and competent and experienced, then just hit the like button and the subscribe button, and we'll make sure you don't miss any future content. So that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you today. I do want to reiterate, this is not personal financial advice or personal legal advice, and these are my opinions, and they are not meant to be legal advice. Your lawyer is your best source for legal advice, and your professional counselors are your best people to give you advice specific to your circumstance. We're going to be doing a lot with videos this year. We're going to be talking about the basics of investing. That's going to be one video series we're going to have. We're going to talk about the basics of financial planning. That's going to be a separate video series we're going to have. We're going to talk about our market forecast for the next 3 years. That's going to be a video series we're going to have. So there's a lot of reasons to like and subscribe to this. Please do that now before you forget and you go watch stupid cat videos. And again, I'll thank you for your time. We're going to try and help 100,000 people this year through the use of social media videos. So have a great day, and I'll be talking to you real soon. Let me tell you, it really feels good to be done with COVID.